Democrats' new push to fudge the election is voter fraud. And they're using the pandemic as an excuse to have the entire country vote by mail. Here's how the scam works. They send out ballots based off voter rolls. These rolls are dirty and outdated, filled with the dead and drifters, so it leaves millions of extra ballots just floating around. And then they get filled out fraudulently, and political hacks collect them and bundle them and flip them, you know. They bribe and intimidate people. Just recently in Paterson, New Jersey, 4 people were busted.
Yesterday was allegations of ballot stuffing and vote bundling that led to about 800 ballots being set aside. Now there appear to be signed, mailed-in votes from residents, but those residents tell us they never voted.
They were charged with election fraud, mail-in voting fraud, and illegal possession of mail-in ballots. But it's not just in New Jersey. Here's the Alabama Secretary of State.
Since I've been the Secretary of State in Alabama, we've had 6 convictions on voter fraud. We've had 2 elections that have been overturned. 5 of the 6 that have been convicted were convicted for fraudulent activity related to absentee balloting. I know that for a fact.
Even the New York Times said, quote, "Voting by mail increases the potential for fraud." And votes cast by mail are less likely to be counted, more likely to be compromised, and more likely to be contested than those cast in a voting booth. Also, fraud in voting by mail is vastly more prevalent than the in-person voting fraud. Democrats themselves, just a few years ago, came out against it.
In my experience in New York, paper ballots are extremely susceptible to fraud. Pure paper with no machines. I can show you experience which would make your head spin.
So far, the Supreme Court has decided to stay out of the dispute over whether to allow greater mail-in voting in Texas after a request from a state Democratic leader to expand the mail option because of the coronavirus. Voting by mail in Texas is generally limited to those with a sickness or physical condition that prevents in-person voting. The Texas Attorney General argued that fear of getting the virus doesn't qualify as a disability under the law. The president recently spoke about mail-in voting with Sean Hannity.
And not so much the absentee ballot, because an absentee, like I'm in the White House and I have to vote in Florida, etc., etc. You're absentee, it's okay. But people go through a process for that. The mail-in ballots, they mail them to anybody, and they send them out by the millions. I think I read over 30 million ballots are going to be sent out in California. Where are they going? Nobody's standing there watching you vote.
It's not just the mail-in ballot scam the president has to fight. The president is also facing heat from social media companies like Twitter and the Jeff Bezos-owned Twitch, which live streams various content. Twitch temporarily banned the president for what they call hateful conduct from 2 of the president's speeches, one from June 16, 2015, when he